Manor Lords is a medieval city builder with a particular focus on historical authenticity. Although it's not actually set in a specific real-world period or location, the game's creators have drawn inspiration from the German region of Franconia, as it was in the late medieval period. The game is all about building settlements to establish your rule over lush, uninhabited regions, and in this video I want to share with you some historical village layouts that were actively used in Germany during the Middle Ages. I hope you find these inspiring and use them wisely on your way to becoming the ultimate Manor Lord. The Haufendorf is a slightly peculiar layout because it's characterized by not actually having a structured layout. All the plots and surrounding farmlands are of an irregular size and there is no defining pattern to the village's structure or road layout. These villages were typically rather large and could be found mostly in western Germany, although they did of course occur in neighboring regions as well. Most Haufendorfs, or heap villages, were originally smaller hamlets that organically grew larger through the years, and is thought that the irregularity of the plots is due to the region having a tradition of partible inheritance, which meant that plots ended up being repeatedly divided, making them progressively smaller and more fragmented from generation to generation. The Haufendorf is probably the best choice for your first village, or one that you want to be able to expand easily as you progress in the game. During a period of high prosperity from the 11th to the 13th century, population pressure forced German rural populations to progressively claim new lands. Some opted to settle in forested areas and convert them to arable land. This is referred to as the Landesausbau. Others, however, settled eastward beyond the Elbe and Saale rivers into mainly Slavic lands. This is referred to as the Ostsiedlung. As both of these were organized settlement efforts, largely under the control of German or local nobility, the haphazard structure of the Western Haufendorf could instead be streamlined into better planned forms, such as the following. The Rundling's layout is circular, centered on a communal village green, into which there is typically only one entry road. All buildings are situated along this circular shape. The Rundling village type has a very rich and interesting history, sprinkled with a bit of uncertainty. The current leading theories suggest that the layout originated in the 12th century as part of the so-called Ostsiedlung. The Rundling villages appear to have been built to house existing non-German populations, mainly of Slavic origin. It's also thought that the original medieval layout was more of a horseshoe shape. The extra houses needed to make a full circle were added towards the very end of the Middle Ages, which is when population density started going up in the area. Another curiosity is that Rundling villages almost never had churches, schools, or shops built within them. These structures, if ever built, sat mostly on the outskirts, leaving only the distinctive circular green at the center. Due to their compact shape, Rundlings work well as agriculture and livestock-focused settlements, as you can easily surround them with fields and pasturelands. They are not well geared for expansion though. The Angerdorf is characterized by a central, large, typically lens or eye-shaped communal green, also called an anger. All the houses are laid out around this communal space, somewhat similar to a Rundling, but much larger and more open. Barns and farmhouses were located toward the rear, away from the anger, and could be connected by a farm track, which would form an outer ring around the village. In many cases, the anger would have a water source, like a pond or a stream running through it. Although initially the angers were devoid of buildings, over time, community facilities like churches or schools ended up being built on them. Within Germany, Angerdorf-type villages can be found predominantly in the east, as, much like the Rundlings, they were often established during the Ostsiedlung process. However, it's important to note that this was indeed a very popular layout that spread all over Central Europe, from the western parts of Hungary all the way to Lorraine in eastern France. This village type is relatively easy to set up in Manor Lords, and it caters for expansion fairly well. The only downside is that your anger will never be able to have a pond, as these don't exist in the early access map at the moment, but you can perhaps place a well to simulate this. The Reihendorf, also known as the row or linear village, is rather simple. All the settlement's buildings are all arranged along a transport route, such as a road or a river, acting as a central axis for the village. Depending on the exact nature of the axis and surrounding terrain, there are specific subtypes of linear villages that have slight differences from each other. A Waldhufendorf, or forest village, is a type of linear village that can be found in areas of forest clearing, where the settlement is initially constrained by forest on each side. These villages first appeared in the northern Black Forest area in the 11th century, becoming popular across other areas in the centuries after. The Zeilendorf is also a layout that originated in response to the surrounding terrain, but in this case the buildings are situated only along one side of the central axis. These were most commonly found on the edge of valleys. A Hagenhufendorf is similar to the Zeilendorf in that buildings are found only on one side of the road, but on the other side it has fields for farming. A stream typically runs behind the row of houses. These linear layouts are perhaps most appropriate as satellite villages focused on gathering or producing a single good that gets exported to your other villages. It's very easy to set one up right on the King's Road and build along it. The early access map also has a stream that you can use for a Hagenhufendorf, but this will probably be less useful from a gameplay perspective, as for now streams are mainly aesthetic and do not provide any real bonuses. That's all the historical village layouts I have for you today, but don't forget to like and subscribe for more authentic history gaming videos.